I was nearly killed by a train. The year was between 2009 and 2015. We were on the Great Peninsula of Cape Cod with my uncle and his girlfriend driving to get seafood or something. Let's now jump to the perspective of Samuel Jackson. Samuel bears no relation or similarities to the actor of the same name. His parents just decided to name him that, because Samuel was born 47 years ago, so between 36 and 42 at the time of this story. His parents were woefully unaware of the life of ridicule he was going to be subjected to following his name twins' rise to fame in the 1990s. Samuel owned a 2005 Honda Civic LX at the time. He had purchased it because his previous car had been totaled in an accident with a train. I am so depressed. No one respects me for who I am. I'm just known as the guy who has the same name as that stupid actor. Even if I achieve worldwide fame, I'm not more famous than Samuel L. I'll always be named as second rate. I'm going to drive in front of this train now. Samuel survived his incident with a renewed zest for life. This zest was primarily brought about by a multi-million-dollar lawsuit settlement. Wait, you might be saying. Samuel purposely drove in front of that train. Why does he get a multi-million-dollar lawsuit settlement? That's a great question, viewer, and to answer it, I introduce you to Pete Jackson. Pete is Samuel's older brother, and upon hearing the true story of Samuel's attempted suicide, Pete talked him into purposefully damaging his throttle cable after the accident, and then suing Honda for leaving him stranded on the tracks. The trick worked, and Samuel was awarded $6 million for his injuries. Pete is now in federal prison for an unrelated case of tax evasion. Anyway, from 2009 to 2015, the range of years that could have contained this particular train incident, Samuel was happily retired on Cape Cod, devoted to the prevention of train accidents. He used to speak at elementary schools, warning children of the danger of stopping their cars on train tracks. Unfortunately, my father had never been warned of this danger. We return to the day of the incident. The day Samuel was sitting in his 2005 Honda Civic LX. He had felt bad for scamming Honda, so he used some of his money to buy a new car from them. Samuel was sitting at an intersection near a railroad crossing, doing what he spent most of his days doing, watching the cars go through to make sure no one got hit. A true man for the people, Samuel was. But as I said before, on that day, my father stopped the car right on the tracks. And a few moments later, it couldn't be. The train was approaching. The gates were closing. Samuel couldn't barely bear to watch, but he knew what he had to do. The gates shut on both sides of the 2004 Toyota Highlander. My father panicked, first driving forward, but being stopped by the gate closing in front of them. He then drove back, and the rear gate hit into the top of the car. The cars behind saw what was happening and reversed to give him space. The Highlander crashed through the rear gate and stopped just out of the train's path. And not a few seconds later, the freight train whooshed by. Mind you, this was not a slow-moving train. It was, on the contrary, a quite fast-moving train. Probably in the range of 50 to 70 miles per hour if I had to make an estimation. Samuel had done it. He had prevented a fatal train accident. You may be thinking, what did Samuel do? He just watched. And that's where you'd be wrong, idiot. Samuel is the only reason I'm alive to share this story, and here's why. What if I were to tell you Samuel didn't survive to 2009? He didn't survive to 2006 for that matter. 1 year after his accident, which he did in fact survive, he choked to death on a junior mint while dining alone in his mansion. It was not, in fact, the physical Samuel sitting at that intersection that day in 2009 to 2015. The physical Samuel resides in a cemetery in West Yarmouth. It was, in actuality, his spirit, forever devoted to the prevention of train accidents. His spirit slowed down that train just enough for us to evade it. He warped time and space to make that train arrive just a few seconds later. The spirit of Samuel is why I, and countless other potential victims to fatal train accidents, are here today. So, if you ever come in close contact with a speeding train, just remember, if it weren't for the ghost of Samuel Jackson, you absolutely would have died. The end.